Thank you for your patience. Today, South Africa is in mourning. We are mourning the death of Mrs. Madikizela Mandela, the mother of our nation, who departed this afternoon. There's been an outpouring of grief and sadness when this news started spreading around the country. Many of our people just cannot believe that she has departed. They were still glowing in her continued presence and life, particularly after she seemed to have gotten over the health challenges that she was going through. Now she's gone, and in a funny sort of way, the nation was ill-prepared for her early departure, and people are grieving very, very deeply. The death of Winnie Madikizela Mandela is a great loss, in that she has been one of the strongest women in our struggle, who suffered immensely under the apartheid regime, who was imprisoned, who was banished, who was treated very badly, separated not only from her husband but from her children as well and her people. But notwithstanding all this, she remained strong, she remained determined, she was courageous, and in many ways she was also very stubborn. Stubborn on behalf of our people, because she knew that out of her stubborn disposition, she would be able to inspire millions of South Africans. And she inspired millions of us. We grew up watching how she was conducting herself as she resisted the worst type of terrible torture from the apartheid regime. She was not only an inspiration, but she also touched the lives of many, millions of South Africans during the dark days of apartheid, when the ANC was banned, when our people were living under the jackboot of apartheid. She remained the sole voice of the democratic movement. She continued to show courage against all the terrible forms of intimidation that was leveled against her and her movement. Her movement remembers her very fondly, as she was one of those gallant leaders that our movement has had. So she's one person who really went through a lot of tribulations. If there's anyone who suffered as much as Nelson Mandela did, she did outside prison. She suffered immensely, and today her departure is a real loss. You can hear the people singing, and this will go on through the night, through the week, as we prepare to lay her to rest. So we, as South Africans, are all in mourning, right across the nation. And Winnie Mandela, in many ways, was also a unifier. She had this great ability of uniting so many South Africans across the color line and across the political line as well. Also, she was able to unite urban and rural. Having been born in the rural areas of our country, she was able to represent the views and the aspirations of both the rural people as well as the urban people, oppressed people in our country. So she's a great loss. It is going to be very difficult for the nation to really sustain itself until we bury her. There's going to be a lot of heartache throughout the nation. Internationally as well, Winnie Mandela had a great impact on the African continent. She's fondly remembered as a very gallant and brave person, and in the international arena, she's also greatly remembered by many people in the anti-apartheid movement, because she was the beacon that many people in the international world looked forward to. And she was one of those who knew that apartheid would be defeated, and that spurred her on an ongoing basis, even when people would have thought that she would weaken, she would buckle under. Winnie Mandela never did, and her voice continued to reverberate throughout the length and the breadth of our country. So this is South Africa that is in mourning, and at the national government level, we have declared that Winnie Mandela will have a national official funeral, which will be held on the 14th of April, and there will be an official memorial service on the 11th. But then again, there will be many other memorial functions right across the country, nearly every province of our nation. And we would like to extend our gratitude and our thanks to many across the country and the world who are wishing us well, who are wishing her movement well, the African National Congress, a movement that she so loved. And I, as president of the ANC, I'm saddened because I went out with her, came to fetch her here, went to the voter registration point for her to check her voting details, and after that we went to lunch together. So my last lunch with Winnie Mandela was the most memorable one here in Vilakazi Street, and I sat next to her, and I was overjoyed when I saw her enjoying her meal, enjoying her company, and the people around, as well as the new restaurant where we were eating. And let me say that the few businesses that were established in Vilakazi Street were established out of her inspiration. She inspired a lot of the business people who are now doing business in this iconic real estate location in the world, where 2 Nobel Peace Prize winners have their homes. She inspired that Vilakazi Street should be what it is today. So even the traders in Vilakazi Street will mourn her death, will remember her very fondly. Winnie Mandela, lastly, leaves a huge legacy. And as we say in African culture, a gigantic tree has fallen. And this is the Winnie Mandela tree that provided shade for the people of South Africa, for the people who were in struggle. They used to run under this tree for refuge, for shade, and for security. That is what Winnie Mandela provided to the millions of people in our country. We are sad that this tree has finally fallen. Thank you very much.
Okay.